So we started this discussion on teams by looking at leading teams. So let's look at how you turn a group into an effective team. So the role of the leader here. So first we need to look at how do we measure team effectiveness? How do we know if we're getting what we need out of the team? So there are different ways to measure team effectiveness. We can look at productivity. So we're comparing the output of the team versus the inputs for the team. We can have the team leader or external managers rate the performance of the team. Did they meet their goals that we set out for them? The other way we can measure team effectiveness is by having the team members themselves rate the satisfaction in terms of ability to work with the team and whether they felt the team was efficient and effective. How much effort did it take for the team to reach a consensus, to come up with to solve the problem, to come up with ideas? Was it a good use of time? So we can measure team effectiveness based on output, based on management's view in terms of the performance of the team, or the team's satisfaction with their performance themselves. In terms of creating an effective team, there are 4 components for team effectiveness: context, composition, work design, and process. And so this team effectiveness components comes from Stephen Robbins and Timothy Judge. Judge is a management professor at the University of Notre Dame. Robbins, a management professor at San Diego State University. Well, you probably recognize the name Robbins because he is the author of the textbook we are using for this course. He also happens to hold world records in sprint, as well as other national and world titles. So let's look at their perspective in terms of how do you turn groups into effective teams. So we'll start with context. So this is going to be the structure that allows for the team to be effective. Does the team have adequate resources? Do we have an organizational structure that created the team that helps them to be effective? Do we have a level of trust? And do we have a performance management system that, as we talk about room, in terms of does effort, and here we're talking about the effort of the team, match the performance rating of the team, match the rewards given to the team, and do those rewards match what the team desires? So we can apply the expectancy theory of room to the performance management here of the team. We also need to look at the composition of the team. So when we look at the team, we look at the ability of the members. So we're looking at their skills. Do they have the appropriate training? We can look at their personality. So if we refer back to some video discussions we had previously, remember we did a number of personality tests. We looked at true colors, for example. We looked at Myers-Briggs. And the work in this personality testing is really about building teams and putting different personalities that they see as complementary to each other. So assuming that we can identify a classification of personality, then we could build the team with complementary personalities. Okay. We then, as we set up the team, we need to allocate the roles, who's going to do what, how big of a team, and we talked in our previous video in terms of that team size. Do we need to accomplish something quickly? Do we need greater buy-in? Do we need greater creativity and problem solving, which we might then err on a larger team versus quick work, which would be a smaller team? We need to look at individual preferences, and do we have enough different perspectives? Do we have all of the different expertise that we need for the team to be effective? Then we look at work design. So this recalls back to a video we had not too long ago that looked at job design. So work design, job design in terms of what is being done. And so if you look at this list here in terms of work design, autonomy, skill variety, task identity, task significance, this list should look very familiar to a conversation we had previously. So perhaps you remember the discussion that we had in terms of job design. And so here, this would be the jobs, the tasks, the combination of tasks that are being done by the team. Do we have skill variety, right? Do we have the ability to showcase the talents of the individuals within the team? Does the team get to see the finished product? So how their work contributes to the final product. So do we have that task identity? Task significance. So does that team get to see how their work, how their performance impacts other people, impacts the greater organization? Do we have autonomy? So does that team get to determine their process, their steps? So we've seen this list before when we talked about designing jobs and motivating people. And you'll recall here as we looked at motivators and then we looked at, the job characteristic model from Hackman and Oldham, using this job design, setting up the job characteristics and aligning them with outcomes in terms of tying it to that motivation. So what you're seeing as we look at effective teams is pulling on the theories in terms of motivation and job design into effective team design. Then we have our last component here, which is our team needs to have a common purpose. They need to have goals. We need to reduce the social loafing, and we need to address conflict. And so the last topic we're going to talk about here as we talk about leading teams, we're going to talk about the component here in terms of how do we deal with team conflict. And so we'll address that in the next video.